The Adhyatma Upanishad presented by Swayam Prakash Sharma, the second and concluding part. The concluding part of the Upanishad continues the discussion of spiritualism, Brahm, Atma, etc. The Upanishad. This perception of difference that seems to exist, this perception is rooted in the mind of the perceiver. In the absence of the mind, there is no difference in perception. When the mind does not exist, difference also does not exist. Therefore, concentrate the mind on the Supreme Self, on the Param Atma as the subject. When a person realizes the Self or the Atma, that is existent bliss, as one's own essence, then there follows the savoring, the tasting and enjoying the flavor of timeless bliss. That is the Self, that is the Atma, both externally and internally. The fruit of detachment is knowledge. The fruit of knowledge is withdrawal. When a person experiences the Atma as bliss, this leads to peace. And again, peace is the fruit of withdrawal. Without there being successive stages, without there being succeeding stages, the previous stages do not yield any fruit. The stages yield fruit only when a preceding stage has a succeeding stage. Cessation is supreme satisfaction, and matchless bliss is that which comes spontaneously. Understand that matchless bliss is that which comes spontaneously. In the great sentence Tat Tvam Asi, meaning that God you are, or you are that God. The experienced sense of the word Tat, or that God, has Maya for its adjunct. That God is the world cause. He is the cause of the world. He is characterized by qualities like omniscience, being all-knowing, etc. He is tinged by transcendence, which puts him beyond the grasp of human reasoning or understanding. And he is essentially truth and so forth. The experienced sense of the word Tvam, or you, shines as the content of the idea and the expression of I and mine. It is awareness blended with the mind, the organ of inner perception. The Supreme Spirit, or the Param Atma, who is the indivisible being, who is consciousness and bliss, that Supreme Spirit is indicated only when the adjuncts of Maya and ignorance, which are the adjuncts of God and Jeev, when these adjuncts are removed from them. To listen in this way is to pursue by means of sentences the true meaning of Maya, the true meaning of ignorance, the true meaning of God, and the true meaning of Jeev or being. On the other hand, the process of thinking consists in perceiving the consistency of the Supreme Spirit with reason. Meditation, one should know, is the exclusive attention of the mind fixed on the meaning that has been made clear through the process of both listening and thinking. Concentration is said to be that mind which outgrows the dualism, which outgrows the difference between the meditator and the meditation, and then gradually dwells exclusively on the object of meditation, and which is absolutely still like a flame in a windless place, is absolutely still and does not flicker. The mind's modifications with regard to the self or the Atma are not recognized in that state. They are only inferred as the past after one quits the state of Samadhi. All the countless karmas that a person has accumulated in his past innumerable lives, in his past innumerable births, all those past karmas are dissolved by means of concentration. And then pure virtue begins to flourish. The best knowers of yoga call this concentration as the cloud of virtues, since it rains down virtues in 1,000 streams. When, by means of this cloud of virtues, the load of innate impulses is completely dissolved without leaving any residue whatsoever, and when all the heaps of karmas, both good and evil, all the heaps of karmas are totally eradicated, the major tests which at first shone forth immediately, now those very texts, unobstructed, yield immediate awareness that is as clear to a person as the citrus fruit that he holds in the palm of his hand. The non-occurrence of the impulse to enjoy, etc., with regard to the objects of enjoyment, this marks the highest point of detachment. The highest point of awareness is marked by the non-occurrence of the sense of ego, of the sense of I and mine. The highest point of withdrawal is marked by the non-occurrence even of the latent or of the hidden impulse to enjoy. The person who enjoys bliss forever, he is the ascetic, he is the sannyasi of steadfast wisdom, whose self or whose Atma is merged in Brahm alone, who is immutable and absolutely motionless and quiet. Wisdom or pragya is defined as the unwavering spiritual mode whose content is the unity of Brahm and the Atma, that have been purged completely of all adjuncts, that have been purged completely of all appendages. Whosoever possesses this wisdom without a break, such a one is liberated in life. The person who has no conceit of I or mine in regard to the body and to the senses, who has no conceit of objects in regard to things other than them, who is free from these two conceits in regard to anything whatsoever, such a one is liberated in life. The person who in his own wisdom perceives no difference whatsoever between the subject and Brahm, who neither refers to the Creator nor does he refer to creation, such a one is liberated in life. The person whose attitude is the same both when he is honored by the virtuous and when he is persecuted by the wicked, such a one is liberated in life. The person who has realized the truth of Brahm, such a one no longer transmigrates as he had done earlier. If, however, he continues to transmigrate as before, then this truth of Brahm has not actually been realized by him, He is only an extrovert. As long as the experience of pleasure, etc. lasts, so long do objective karmas or actions from the past persist. Causal actions always precede the occurrence of effects. Never is the occurrence of effects not preceded by actions. When a person experiences this that I am Brahm, then all the karmas that he has accumulated in the course of all the countless ages gone by, of all the countless previous births, all those accumulated karmas are dissolved in the same way that all actions in dreams are dissolved when a person wakes up. Just as nothing clings to space, so too does nothing cling to the sage who knows the self or the Atma to be unattached and indifferent. Even future actions do not cling to him in the least degree. Just as space is not affected in any way by the smell of the liquor in the pot, even though the space touches the pot that contains the liquor, in the same way the Atma is not affected in any way by the attributes of his adjuncts. The karmas that are done before knowledge dawns on a person, those karmas do not perish as a result of that knowledge. They are bound to produce their desired effect. Just as an arrow that has been shot at a target, it cannot stop midway before hitting the target. It has to hit the target. Even the arrow that has been mistakenly discharged to hit what was thought to be a tiger, even after one discovers that the tiger is in fact a cow, the arrow cannot alter its course, but it has to, and it hits that target now, the cow, in full force. I am unaging. I am immortal. How can a person who knows his Atma to be such and who actually lives such knowledge, how can such a one fabricate past actions? Operative past action is real only when a person mistakes his own Atma to be the body. The treatment of the body, treating the body as the Atma is improper, is not proper. Therefore, reject the idea of operative past action, which idea is linked to a person treating his own Atma as the body. The fabrication of objective past actions is also indeed a delusion due to this body. How can what is superimposed be real? How can the unreal be born? How can the unborn perish? How can the unreal own operative past actions? To answer the dull-witted people who doubtfully ask how this body can persist if all the effects of the lack of knowledge or ignorance with their cause are both destroyed by knowledge, by Shruti, who doubtfully ask this with an outward eye and propound the theory as operative past actions, not to suggest to the wise that the body etc. are real. The answer to such doubters is as follows. A total plenum, a space completely filled with matter, without beginning without end, without measure, without change, masked being and intelligence, masked eternal bliss, undiminishing, never ever diminishing, with the sole distinctive flavor of the subject, full and complete in all respects, endless, in it behold all. It is neither to be shunned, nor is it to be seized. It is neither to be held, nor is it to be propped or supported in any way. It is beyond inert forces. It is beyond actions. It is subtle. It is certain. It is blemishless. It is unblemished. It is one whose essence is beyond thought, whose essence is beyond mind, whose essence is beyond words. Existent with completeness and fullness, self-proven, pure, awake and matchless. One and only one is this non-dual Brahm. There is no plurality whatsoever. This science was imparted to Antaratmas. He imparted it to Brahma, who passed it on to Ghor Angiras. Ghor Angiras gave this science to Rekav, and Rekav gave it to Ram. Ram imparted this science to all beings. This is the injunction with regard to Nirvana. This is the injunction of the Vedas. Yes, this is the injunction of the Vedas. This is the secret teaching. Yes, this is the secret teaching. This concludes the Adhyatma Upanishad of 2 parts. Om Shanti 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 Om.